All right. So, I'm Charlie Morris, and I'm the filmmaker for 400 Feet Down, and shoes off. Let's get started. All right, if I can do this without my glasses. All right. Oh, I'm Charlie Morris. I already wrote that part. This is the narration script. All right, the story starts like this. Around March 1st of 2019, I heard about the lease that was signed to turn the Oddfellows tract into a stone quarry. To be honest, I didn't know a single thing about the deal, so I started reaching out to members of the Umstead Coalition and the Triangle Off-Road Cyclists, and honestly, literally, just about anyone else who would talk to me about this topic. Before I knew it, I had enough interviews and research to put together a movie. So here we are. Here's the movie. I managed to get 633 minutes of interview footage, and now this week I'm trying to get it down into an hour of film for you to watch. I'm going to start off with a video that I put together with the Umstead Coalition and the Triangle Off-Road Cyclists. It's something that we put together for public outreach. Here it is. The Umstead Recreation District is the most popular outdoor forested recreation area in the Triangle. This is a prized asset that defines our region. Decades of strategic planning and tens of millions of dollars in investments have aligned to create this amazing greenway system connecting Raleigh, Cary, Morrisville, and Durham to Umstead State Park. And the investments have paid off. Employees and businesses benefit from our renowned quality of life and forested green space. The intensity of these lines indicates usage levels. This corridor is one of the most used greenway corridors in the Triangle, and it's part of the East Coast Greenway Trail System. Lake Crabtree is the most visited Wake County park, and Umstead State Park saw 1.8 million visitor days per year, which is up 35% from the previous year. But many are surprised when they learn that the Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority and Wake Stone plan to quarry this land, which is known as the Oddfellows Tract. It borders Umstead State Park, the East Coast Greenway, and Crabtree Creek. If this lease is allowed, here's what we'll see and hear for the next 25 years. How do we keep this from happening? First, there's a lawsuit. Local groups Torque and Umstead Coalition have filed a lawsuit. Here's what it's based on. The Oddfellows Tract is public land that's jointly owned by these four. And these four are also the ones that appoint and manage the membership of the RDU Airport Authority. Yet, this lease was signed without the approval and consent of these four. And according to NC General statutes, that is not legal. There are numerous environmental concerns, including recent photos like this one, indicating that Wake Stone has been allowing runoff from their operations directly into the waters of Umstead State Park and Crabtree Creek. Also, this is the home of the Dunn family, and this new quarry would be located within feet of their home. This proposed quarry is bad for all of us. There's a better alternative. The Conservation Fund and North Carolina State Parks want to buy the Oddfellows Tract, preserving it for all of us to enjoy as an addition to Umstead Park. In fact, over 18,000 petition signers and a growing list of local businesses support preserving this land. Do we quarry this land, destroying it forever and damaging the tranquility of the nearby parks? Or do we preserve it as part of Umstead State Park and support the recreational demands of Triangle residents? We showed a slightly shorter version of this video to the city councils of Raleigh and Durham, and also to the county commissioner boards of Wake County and Durham County. We did this all in the past few months. and they represent the opening arguments for the Stop RDU Quarry side of the aisle. Now, I want to give the opposition a chance to speak, so here's a view from the other side of the aisle. Mr. Bratton, Sam Bratton, the owner of Wake Stone, and here he is speaking at the Raleigh City Council meeting that a lot of us were at.
Mr. Sam Bratton.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Bratton. I'm president of Wake Stone Corporation. My home address is 3412 Williamsburg Court in Raleigh, 27609. Wake Stone is a Wake County company run by Wake County residents and has been for 50 years. We own and operate 4 North Carolina quarries, 2 in Wake County, plus quarries in Lee and Nash counties, in addition to 1 operation in South Carolina. My father founded the company with a commitment to being good stewards of the land, good to the communities in which we operate, and good to our employees. My brothers and I have continued that commitment, and we have the track record to prove it. We have won numerous awards for our commitment to the environment, not just within our industry, but including awards not won by any other quarry company, including Wake County Soil Conservation Urban Conservation Award, North Carolina Wildlife Federation Governor's Land Conservationist of the Year Award, Greater Raleigh Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneurial Company of the Year, North Carolina Family Business of the Year, North Carolina Land Trust Corporate Conservation Award. In addition, we give back to our communities. Nowhere shows that more than our hometown of Knightdale, where we have supported everything the town has asked us to do for more than 50 years. Most recently, in 2018, at their request, we donated 50 acres of land with a fair market value of $2.5 million to the town for its recreation department. Specifically to the Triangle Quarry next to Umstead Park, we have won awards, but more importantly, from the beginning of its permitting, we do not have a single violation of our state permits regulating our air, noise, dust, water, or stormwater discharge. Our track record as individuals and corporate citizens of Wake County is exemplary and stand up to anyone's scrutiny. However, it does not stop people from trespassing on our property or making false statements to influence public officials. On March 1st, the RDU board voted unanimously to lease 105 acres to Wake Stone. They had studied this agreement thoroughly and saw the benefits for our entire area, a strong catalyst for economic development, an even more viable airport, much needed revenue for capital improvements, better roads, less traffic, jobs for our citizens, and even a park designated for mountain bikers. My request is that you honor the Airport Authority's decision. Thank you for your time and your service.
And before Mr. Bratton could take a seat, Councilmember David Cox actually challenged his position and had a question or two for him.
Thank you. I have a question. Mr. Bratton, thank you for your remarks. I do have a question for you, though. Would you be willing to support a public process whereby the 4 municipalities vote on this quarry, and would you support their decision by withdrawing your project for a quarry?
That's a matter for the airport and the Airport Authority, not for us. We're not going to get involved in that. That needs to be the Airport Authority's call. There is a public process that we're going to go through with the mining permit application. All the agencies of the state government, from cultural resources to state park system, land quality, air quality, water quality, will all have input. There'll be a public hearing at that time. There is going to be a public process and an open process. And so we believe that's the right process for us to move forward.
But
we don't believe that
a public process.
We're being sued right now by the Umstead Coalition and TORC and some of the individuals here. So I don't think I can comment on that.
Well, okay, but it sounds like you would not support a public process whereby the city of Raleigh and the other 3 municipalities were to vote on this.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
The meetings I attended definitely left me confused. I wondered why the councils and the commissioners weren't doing more, because they weren't doing much. But one of the things I did grasp right away was, okay, there's all of us out here worried about this one issue, but there's one group of people who are way more affected than any of the rest of us would be, and that is the Dunns. The Dunn family are litigants in the case. They live right here, right next to the proposed quarry.
Well, my name's Tamara Dunn. My husband is Randall Dunn, and we share 2 property lines with them. The line for where the quarry will be goes right behind our house here, and then it comes all the way up along the side where the road is. Jean came up to me and said, "Hey, do you did see that your name is mentioned in the lease with Wake Stone?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Yeah, your property and your name." And I'm like, "No." She goes, "Well, I have a copy of it." And she handed me a copy of it, and they'd basically written in there that if they were able to acquire our property and our neighbor's property and mentioned us by name, that property would then also be included in the lease with Wake Stone.
I've been trying to get answers from the RDU Authority and my elected leaders on how this will impact myself and our neighbors, our homes, and our quality of life. What I've gotten are flippant answers, platitudes, and silence. We've been ignored, and we've been felt threatened. At the first meeting, the airport staff and authority members would pass us off from one to the other whenever we would ask questions about potential damage to our wells, buffers, noise pollution, air quality, or the impact on the foundations to our homes and to our property value. When I finally did get an answer from a member of the RDU Authority, it was flippant. He said, "Well, look at it this way. In 30 years, you'll have lakeside property."
Could you possibly describe it, like, emotionally, what it's been like, this whole process? Or how has it made you feel the way these people have related to you?
Angry. Probably hurt as well, because when you expect your neighbors and you expect your political representatives to act in a certain way, you expect them to act with integrity, and you expect them to have your best interest at heart because you voted for them. And they could have contacted us, they could have met with us. When I asked the airport CEO why they hadn't contacted us directly and met with us, the answer I got was, "We didn't know how to get in touch with you."
Now, how far from the current mine do you think that you are?
I think we're about a mile or 3/4 of a mile, I think.
And you have mentioned many times that you can feel the blasting?
Yes, you can feel it. If they do a major blast, it will shake the house. And we've had things fall off of the walls.
I then heard from Jeff Wald, and he lives about 2 miles away. He lives right over here. And he claimed that even from over there, he could feel the blasting from the current location.
And it's been a fairly regular occurrence that I hear this. It's usually around mid-morning, and it's almost a visceral feeling. It's a very, very low rumble that you almost feel it and hear it at the same time. And I was curious, could something 2 miles away be having this kind of impact in my house? So, but I was able to correlate a few events within the minute of when they were blasting and when I felt it. And I've been keeping track of it since. They actually did one this morning at, I think it was 11:22, and I felt that. I had a few discussions with Tom Oxenholm, and then later on, I'm drawing a blank at the other guy's name right now, but Bill Crook about this, and they had offered to come out and do seismic testing. They flew someone in from a company called Vibratech from Georgia, a guy named Matt Pills. He seemed to take a lot of care in setting it up, and he did some air monitoring for sound, and had this device that had some, maybe spikes about that long that went into the ground. And then I invited them to come into the house, and so that they were able to hear the event.
And you guys are in the basement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So they heard it also.
I do a lot of work for sound, so we'll look at sound either from a residential standpoint or from a...
Does that sound pretty normal, what you experience? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's normal, or,
You've got video of when you guys actually went out to check it out.
Yeah. I'm not sure if...
Well, that's okay.
There's
The
anything.
sound will
is
be there a little bit.
Yeah.
Coming out and things, so we see what that is.
Yeah, let's see if we got something there.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like that every time, just kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how that corresponds to what some of the other ones were, because I'm be curious if the microphone picks it up at all, because people have been on teleconferences and they respond. Right. They hear what's a very loud rumble.
Is it trigger?
Yeah, I don't think I got a trigger. I didn't get a trigger. It's just too low. I had it as low as I could go. Yeah, so Jeff, what I did was I set my machine here to 0.008. So I was a little bit below threshold. Threshold should be about 0.02 if we were, not moving in your house. Right? Pretty standard. I would have probably set this threshold, but I wanted to just get it as low as I could possibly go.
Yep. So were they surprised, or were they... I guess it's just like, weren't they like, oh man, we flew you all the way out here and this didn't work?
Yeah, it was kind of like, he knew exactly what to expect. I mean, he's not an amateur, he knows what he's doing. And they have recordings, I'm sure they know the recordings on site, and they could calculate what the likely
what threshold he would need to have his equipment set to record it way out here.
Exactly.
And I was thinking, if Jeff can feel the rumbling 2 miles away from the existing quarry, then is it possible that the Dunn's housing foundation could already be impacted from the current quarry as well? And it reminded me of this article that I had come across when I was doing research, and the article was from Fountain, North Carolina. So there was a lawsuit down there around 2004. Martin Marietta ran a mine there, and they were being sued for damages to local homes. It's this really cute town, all these cool little brick houses, and all you have to do is drive through the town, and on almost every home I looked at that was made out of brick, you could see the signs. It looked like a minor earthquake had been happening there pretty often. There's so much structural damage to the bricks there.
Oh yeah, holy crap.
And in particular, the steps on this church were definitely a focal point of a lot of blast energy, apparently. And in the article that I had read, it mentioned a lot, an expert on how blasts and things like earthquakes move through the ground and how they affect structural foundations, and her name is Deborah Lafler. Just turned out that she worked at NYU, and my son lives in Queens, and I was on my way up there to visit him, so I said, hey, can we meet? And she said, sure. So next thing you know, I was sitting in the office at NYU. What happened can you just discuss the case a little bit more and from Fountain? What year was it, and how did things turn out?
Yeah, so I think I started looking at around 2002, 2003. There was concern that blasting levels were exceeding good practice. We went in, we looked at state records. That did not seem to be the issue, and yet there was clearly damage. I think we inspected 26 homes. Of them, 24 clearly had damage for which there was no other apparent reason.
And what was their distance approximately from the mine?
Some of them were quite close, some of them were a bit further away. But then there were other homes in between that weren't damaged. So then it raised the question: why are you not getting continuous damage throughout?
How is liquefaction related to the damage to the 26 homes?
Yeah, so we found that, or the 24. So we found that they were being shaken, but it takes a lot of energy to shake a building hard enough to actually damage it. Unlike when you have liquefaction, you often have differential settlement, which is a much easier way to crack a building, because all of a sudden part of the building's not being supported.
Right.
So we felt that what was happening was actually repetitive liquefaction.
Right.
And so in the late winter through late spring, anytime the blasting was on that side of the quarry, that they were inducing this situation that was causing damage. And what the problem is that the blasting code does not address this as a damage mechanism. I mean, we had a situation down in Fountain where someone from the state geologist's office was coming down to help us understand why we were getting damage patterns in a way that were unexpected and did not match the literature. There was clear damage in areas, but it was not continuous. Mm-hmm. And what the geologist came down and was telling us is that there was a Paleolithic island chain that ran through this town. And then with that information, we were able to tie it back to other things. And at the initial point, we had a lot of cooperation from that office, and then at a certain point, that geologist was forbidden from the head of the agency from speaking to us anymore.
What?
She was told that under no circumstances was she allowed to speak to us anymore.
So anyway, someone talked to the state geologist and pulled some strings, and so one of their main allies had to drop out. Like the closing statements or whatever of the Martin and Marietta mine operator was said it was inconceivable that their mining operation could affect properties adjacent to the mine. The same type of outcome that the testing turned up at Jeff's house is the same exact type of outcomes that happened down in Fountain. But based upon my meeting with Deborah and what to look for in terms of a cracked housing foundation, I asked Tamara if I could just walk around with my GoPro and just look at her foundation, look at her tile, see if she had any stained glass windows. And I've worked in the construction trade for a while. I've poured concrete foundations. I've done in-floor heating systems where you put the pipes in the floor and you pour the concrete on top of it. So I'm not an expert, but this house is only 12 years old. And all I can say is that when I look at the stuff inside this house, I'm thinking this looks more like a 30-year-old house. When you think about structural damage, what other things are within a radius of where this new quarry would be? We've got Carey's wastewater treatment plant. We have the dam on Crabtree Lake. We've got bridges. And we're going to have a section of Crabtree Creek that will almost be suspended between two 400-foot deep quarry pits. Honestly, I don't like those odds. One of the unexpected consequences of working on this whole thing for me has just to see how much DEQ, the Department of Mines, and rock quarries, it allows the rock quarries to operate with complete immunity.
Yeah.
Water quality, air quality, structural damage to homes. These things are common across the whole state, and no one ever gets them on anything.
Not just the state. When you start researching it, it's across the entire nation.
Right. There's one other big lesson from Fountain. As I was driving through town, I passed this vacant lot. And so just imagine seeing a family here playing in their yard. And then a fly rock weighing 40 pounds flies from here to here and lands right in this family's yard while they're playing on the other side of their trailer home. So what I learned from locals is that that family moved pretty much right away. I think within 2 weeks they were gone, is what I was told. So if you draw a radius around how far the Martin Marietta stone went, let's see all the places where a fly rock could hit someone.
Thank you. Very good. My name is Tom Oxholm. I'm proud to be a 34-year employee of Wake Stone, Vice President, and I live at 7301 Bay Hill Court in Raleigh. As elected officials, I'm sure you know the pain of reading and hearing things about yourselves that are not true. That is one of the prices you pay for public service, even more so today than when I served 16 years ago. What our company is learning this year is that false accusations can be made about private citizens and companies, especially on the internet, with little opportunity to rebut them. A sad state of affairs. We have a model for our success. It's right next door. We've been operating there for 38 years, 219 acres, and we've produced over 50 million tons of aggregate that have been consumed in this community. And we've done it with no mining permit violations and no complaints. And we've done it with no mining permit violations and no complaints.
I can't stop the bleeding, so here we are again. The men are sitting in their windows, they can't even hear the cries. That long and lonesome feeling tries to pass us by. And if you were to ask the land, all you would hear are cries. And if you were to ask the man, all you would get is lies.
Recently, a video by Mr. Morris featuring Gene Spooner accused Wake Stone of violating our state permit and polluting Crabtree Creek. And we were supposedly, according to them, using processed water from the quarry operation and discharging into the creek.
The video that Mr. Oxholm was referring to is the one that I filmed here. There is a creek that flows out of the North Pond on Wake Stone property, and completely by accident I stumbled into it one day, and this is what I found. Okay, so I'm down here at this creek that looks like it flows somehow out of the quarry. What's really wild when you look at this place is it's really pretty, but you can see how there's like there's like white dust all over everything. See, that is not what you find. This is not what you find at the bottom of normal creeks. This rock dust here, you see it builds up this layer of silt here, which is definitely not the same stuff as you get inside of a natural creek. Look at all that. It's all covered with rock dust. So Wake Stone says that nothing that comes out of their place has ever entered the water, and they're 100% on water quality. Alright, so I'm upstream from the point where all the white stuff was in the creek, and this is a smaller tributary that I'll show you on the map. But what's missing from these rocks? This is flowing down into the creek where all the white stuff was, but look, no white stuff. This is what the rock should actually look like in an undisturbed condition. What's also on the rocks? Moss, grass growing, right? clarity. Okay, so I sent that video to DEQ, and then I just felt that the response that DEQ came up with was not a robust enough response. They did their inspection, and they kind of found that, well, there's not really much here, at least in terms of the creek that I had been in.
And we were supposedly, according to them, using processed water from the quarry operation and discharging into the creek. For the record, we have never discharged water from the mining operation into the Crabtree Creek, nor polluted it. State mining specialist Bill Denton's report on this complaint stated there was no evidence of any violations nor of any pollution.
And so I was definitely wishing I had more proof.
In our 38 years of operations, we have met or exceeded all air and water quality requirements and never caused downstream flooding.
This is effluent from the stone quarry going into Crabtree Creek after downpour, July 22nd, 2018. It really clouds up the water in Crabtree Creek.
And help came from a very unexpected place. David Murdoch sent me this video that he captured in July of 2018, and it's in the same creek where I had filmed the white, dusty, covered rocks. What you are seeing is chalky white runoff from the Wakestone Quarry pouring directly into Crabtree Creek. After seeing that video and the rest of the images, I knew that Wake and DEQ were definitely not taking it seriously, because I was like, well, why didn't they go out and do soil samples? So I decided to do my own soil samples. I went back a second time, about 2 weeks after I filmed the first video, and I collected a soil sample from the bottom of the creek. I sent my sample off to Eastern Carolina University, where a professor ran it through their X-ray diffraction equipment, and the results came back. 100% quarry runoff material.
If you look it up on the, if you look it up on the mining sites, what you get is, oh, well, it's not, the air quality is kept beneath a certain level. But then you go to other you go to other sites and they talk about lung disease in people around quarries from the silicate in the air. Mm-hmm. And an increased number, with lung disease, but you can't find it because around here there's only a few people living close to the current quarry. There's nobody that's really particularly bothered, but what is that going to look like when they put it here? Because now you're not that far from the apartment complex either that's right down the street.
Right.
It's just right across I-40. And I don't think a lot of the folks that live in the area realize just how far that's going to spread.
Yeah. I've been riding my bike all of June, so my goal for this fundraiser against cancer is to ride 300 miles.
In the month of June?
Yeah, in the month of June. And while I'm doing that, I'm also taking air quality monitoring data. So I'm taking a portable air sensor. It's this small sensor here. I'm putting it on my bike.
Okay.
And it takes measurements of PM 2.5, PM 10, NO2, and VOC. So PM 2.5 is very small, 2.5 micrometers in size. And so this is the size of it, and this is a hair shaft in comparison.
Oh, wow.
Sand is this size, much bigger. Dust is typically measured as PM 10. Yeah, so the problem is that PM 2.5 is so small that it can get into your body very easily and go to all of your organs. So if you get exposed to it, it can cause some pretty serious health impacts. Sure, stone quarries also produce PM 2.5, and I've been able to measure that. So on one of the bike rides that I took, this was recently June 16th, you can see the air, when the color is green, this air quality index is good, and where it's purple, it's not good, it's poor, so it's considered high.
Okay.
And on this ride, the PM 2.5 only got up to 48 micrograms per cubic meter. So it didn't get very high. It's fairly clean. And then on June 4th, which is a day that we knew they were going to be doing blasting at the quarry, you can see the values of PM 2.5 were really astronomical.
Whoa.
So this is
48
versus 200. So multiple times higher concentrations.
Wow. The first thing that crosses my mind, just to play devil's advocate, is, they're blasting in a mine that's 400 feet deep. How can dust from way down there get all the way up over a rim of a 400-foot thing and then drift, over to these areas? It seems unlikely to me. Can you tell me how it's likely?
Well, I think we saw a video of one of their blasts where the folks were in their truck at the very top around the rim road of the quarry.
Oh, that's right.
And they said, now if that blast comes this way, if the wind goes a particular way, we might have to get in the trucks and protect ourselves from breathing.
Look at that dust cloud. Watch the dust cloud. That's what's amazing. Yeah. And we're probably going to scat for our trucks here in a minute. Yeah. So what typically happens though, you get this deal going on. That means if that dust comes this way, we'll get inside. I think it's probably going to wrap back around.
So it really depends on a lot of things. The wind direction, the wind speed, the temperature, how hot the ground is, whether it's getting a lot of convective motion. So the particles act like a gas almost. So if there is a lot of energy in the air because of heat, they're going to vibrate more and go all over.
Why do you know so much about this?
So I'm an air quality researcher at UNC, Institute for the Environment, that are associated with the map. So when it's purple and high, there's a certain indication, and they're comparing it basically. So what they're saying is at the highest level, if you're exposed to PM 2.5 at levels higher than 200, for more than 1 minute, you're going to have a bad health effect.
So that means that on this day, when people were using this purple area, which is the East Coast Greenway Trail, and then later up here we call it the Bridle Trail, the Bridle Path, right? So they would have been on this, if a walker was walking this, it could take them 20 minutes or more.
Yeah, so they were getting some pretty bad exposure.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you're exposed for over a year at levels that high, that's kind of what our federal standards are meant to protect against. But these acute exposures, these really high concentrations, they're not expecting people to be exposed to it, so there really isn't a standard for it.
Wow, I just thought about the Duns.
Yeah.
So for their property, living right next to an active mine right there.
Right.
And what we're doing right now is we're living in ambiguity. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
And so there's just this low-level anxiety all the time.
Yeah. What do you wish the city council would do?
What I wish they would do is listen to what the public has to say and not move forward with the quarry. I mean, that would be my ideal outcome. But at the very least, I wish they would have a transparent conversation with the community. I wish that they would use their voices and force a vote, because they are the property owners. The airport manages the property for the four local governments, but they don't own the property.
I'm the big boss, flexing, cut your wrist off. Itching when these ticks talk. You go keep that hoe, she make off. Give me bankroll, still a big no. I got big goals, I need control.
We're just a little quarry, we're just trying to make a buck here.
Give me bankroll, still a big no. I got big goals, I need control.
Stop the trees.
Final level, fuck a bezel. I need more than a medal. I could do them way better. Haters steaming like a kettle.
We gotta stop these trees.
Final level. I'm the big boss.
We have the traditional rocks. These are a little bit harder to get. You ever build a road with trees? Yeah. Here, these are the slim rocks. So this morning's been a little hectic. Some obnoxious tips here.
That's really annoying.
Yeah, that's annoying. People say, "Wake up, Wake County! Don't dig here."
I'm the big boss flexing.
Hi, this is Mark Stolman. I'm the former mayor of Morrisville, out enjoying a beautiful Carolina Saturday we have here. Rode up on the old Reedy Creek Trail on my way to Umstead, and passing by the Oddfellows track here behind me, it made me think about the recent deal that RDU Airport signed with Wake Stone. It's been in the newspaper a lot of people have been talking about it. They're calling it a lease. So it's a lease where Wake Stone is going to expand their quarry mining operations, and they're going to lease this from RDU Airport Authority. Now, a little background, RDU Airport Authority is actually a public body. It's an entity that's owned by the City of Raleigh, the Wake County, and the City and County of Durham. So those four entities actually are RDU Airport. The day-to-day operations, short-term leasing, things like that, are done by the RDU board. That's perfectly within their purview. But when it comes to longer-term leasing and sales of airport property, that's a whole different story. When you sell or have a long-term lease, they're supposed to go to those four bodies and get permission. And I think the FAA too has to be involved in the approval process. So here we are, RDU Airport has leased land to Wake Stone, and my question is, when is a lease really a lease? I think in this case we're seeing a sale. I don't consider a private company comes in, extracts the minerals, sand, gravel from Wake County property or Durham County property and sells it as a lease. That stuff is permanently gone. They're going to clear out hundreds of millions of cubic yards of our property in Wake and Durham County. To me, that's a sale. Can you imagine if you leased a car, 3 years later you returned it without the engine, without the interior, without the roof, without the trunk? That wouldn't hold up. So what I'm suggesting is we need to think about, when is a lease a lease? And in this case, I really believe it's a sale. Wake Stone is literally buying millions of cubic yards from us, the taxpayers of Wake, Durham County, the City of Raleigh, and the City of Durham. We need to go talk to our elected officials and make sure this is done properly. They have not gone to those four entities to seek permission for this sale. They have not gone to the FAA to seek permission to sell the land. So I encourage you, go out, write your elected officials, email them, call them. If you live in Wake County, Durham County, the City of Raleigh, the City of Durham, contact your elected officials and make sure they know that a lease is not a lease. This is a sale, and they need to get involved. Thank you very much. Enjoy the great outdoors. I'm off to Umstead.
Is on March 1st, with only 48 hours notice to the public, the Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority called a special meeting, and a lawyer from Wake Stone read a statement that confirmed that the lease between the Airport Authority and Wake Stone had been signed. This meeting lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. And check this out. The road into the Oddfellows tract was then pushed through within 4 days. When was the last time you had a contractor show up within 4 days?
So I went to school at State for finance and then work in project development.
Oh.
So I do energy conservation, largely energy conservation construction projects. And so I'm constantly doing, financial analysis, net present value.
That's when they say critical infrastructure needs. It doesn't sound like they're ever talking about 25 years from now, we're going to need this money to build a new runway. They're saying it's critical now. So how is this money even going to serve them 25 years in the future better than the conservation fund money now?
It's a good question. I mean, as you can see, a lot of the money doesn't really start coming in. Even if they are able to achieve their projection of the $24 million over 25 years, as we discussed earlier, the time value money applies to that too. So it's really only worth just a hair under $13 million. Even if they're able to achieve that, though, you follow this line and see where it intersects with the conservation fund offer. It's out here in year 15.
So they won't even make the money that conservation fund is offering them under the best of circumstances for 13 and a half years.
Yeah, I think it's over 14 years actually. if you look at it out, sometime in late in year 14.
Can you make a financial argument for why the conservation fund offer helps with critical infrastructure needs of the airport?
Yeah, I mean, definitely they have money today, and so when you compare what you can do with $6.5 million today versus $8.5 million guaranteed over the next 25 years, spread out, and most of that coming in years, 17, 18 through 25, you can do a lot more today with that $6.46 million, as evidenced by the net present value of the guaranteed minimum royalty payments, only $4.58 million. So that's representative that the money in the future is just not worth as much. So when you talk about critical infrastructure needs, 15 years is a long time to wait, I think. Yeah, there's significant risk. I mean, that's the one thing that nobody's talking about. Everyone's focusing on just the dollars. And it's just not a lot of money when you consider all the risks they're taking on. I mean, in my mind, when you read the lease, the quarry, Wakestone, the quarry company, only indemnifies RDU, the airport authority, for 365 days after reclamation activities have concluded and they've finished mining. So they're going to get everything buttoned up and put a fence around it, whatever they're going to do, and then after 1 year, RDU owns it, and thus the 4 municipalities own it. Wake County, Durham County, City of Raleigh, City of Durham.
Right.
So in that scenario, if someone falls into the quarry, drowns, gets hurt, it's on
the
public
city.
land.
Right.
And so you can imagine RDU is going to be sued, and then the 4 municipalities are going to be named as co-defendants in that lawsuit.
This is how the triangle looked in 1984. Now, let's progress to the year 2016.
Well, there's a long and lonesome feeling sitting in the wind.
The fact is, we are all getting squeezed out by development. And where are we going to go? Where's the green space going to be? The Oddfellows tract in this context represents a unique opportunity.
My name is Natalie Liu. I am the head coach of the Southern Wake Trailhawks mountain bike team. We are at Lake Crabtree County Park on the Town of Cary entrance side. We are part of the North Carolina Interscholastic Cycling League, which is one of about 25 leagues in an organization called the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, or NICA. It is about fostering kids' relationships with other kids. It's about getting them outside and playing. And all we do is we go ride bikes in the woods, get into nature and have fun. So the awesome thing about mountain biking is how much it relates to life. You know, you make it through that rock garden, and you know you can do that. Well, then you get in a tough spot in life and you can make it through that class that you don't like, or you can make it through this adversity that you have. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel like you can see the end of a long climb up a hill. Access to the Oddfellows track for these kids would mean a place to learn to ride more advanced mountain biking in the local area. You wouldn't have to drive 2 hours to go find some technical trail. And part of that is also about, this is a way for them to gain confidence. So that, they start off on a beginner intermediate trail, which is what Lake Crabtree is, and then they progress to advanced trails, and that's what we have at the Oddfellows track. So it's a great place to have one continuous section of one continuous tract of trails that benefit the entire community, not just the kids, but all the people around. This area could be a draw nationally for people coming here just for business trips or to recreate.
Whereas here, everybody that's used Umstead State Park is a stakeholder and a lover of this landscape. And everybody that lives in the region who expects the state of North Carolina to be managing the state park system in a way that is going to protect them from having their visitor experience impaired, and everybody that drinks water in this watershed, which is a lot more people than drink water in my watershed, is a stakeholder. It all comes down to highest and best use. That's what appraisers look at, is the highest and best use of that piece of land, a quarry, when you can get stone from multiple other places in the vicinity. The highest and best use of a place with conservation units clustered together is conservation. So you have to zoom out a little bit, and you have to look at the landscape, you have to look at the changes in the triangle, you have to say there are not many opportunities left to save these pockets. And there are a lot of places you can get stone. So the highest and best use of this place is additional conservation.
Meanwhile, Bill Holman, and most likely the North Carolina Park System, stands at the ready, just hoping that people with clearer heads will prevail. All right. Oh. Okay. Oh my God, I read it all. Time to go.
City Council, Raleigh City Council and the four governments have been shut out of the room where it happens, and we want to change that. We want to be able to open the door and to be able to go in and have an adult conversation about the future of the airport and the future of Umstead State Park.
When you lease land and you dig a big hole and take all the dirt and stuff away, you're not returning the same thing. It's not a lease. It's really important that the four municipalities that are owners of the airport have a say in this.
And realize what an important issue this is for a natural resource that you just can't get back. Protect Umstead State Park, keep it green, keep it real, and make sure the airport's successful too, but only if it works for all of us.
You know, what kind of lease is it where you sell it off by the truckload, you end up with a 400-foot hole at the end? That's not a lease, that's a sale. And so time out and have a conversation about what our common interests were.
Hey everybody, I am Wiley Nickel. I'm here to protect the Umstead State Park. And if we put a giant hole in the middle of this park that will never be able to be used by any of us, we really are losing something with the airport. So I support the airport, but I don't understand why they're willing to literally piss off everybody in Wake County for just a few dollars. And it's not a lot of money. With a giant fence around it that no one can use or access, and that'll be it forever. This isn't like we get it back, they fill it in. It's just a giant hole for our kids, and our legacy to them will be what we leave them with this park.